MSB here, and on this episode of Lore Locked, we're going to look at one of the major plot lines that came out of the Frostheart arc, the Merry Caravan event. Locking in our theme, we start with the beginning of the Dead of Winter set, when Hogarth raised a mass call for Entrathians to participate in the largest ever Frostring Arena tournament. As touched on in my previous video, his motives for hosting the tournament were actually focused around his attempt to break free from the second largest hex shard, Frostheart, which tethered him to the Frost Ring. Beings from all across Entrath answered Hogarth's call, and a massive migration northward began. Not one to miss out on large gatherings, a troop of elementalkin called the Fae, along with their elven compatriots, set out on the path of the Hyperborean Mountains, forming what was to be known as the Merry Caravan. The Fae are a collection of beings ranging from fairies and pixies to naiads and pipits, and most closely resemble the fairies depicted in Shakespeare's play, A Midsummer Night's Dream, even including some mirrors of characters like Puck and Titania. Mostly seen as mischievous and playful, the Fae can get a little too enthusiastic during festivals. However, since they are not one to miss out on a good get-together, when the Frostring Arena Challenge was issued, the Fae realized that the who's who of Entrath would be venturing north, and so began to migrate en masse. The now formed Merry Caravan became the epicenter of a vast 24/7 party as it lumbered toward the arena. Part gypsy caravan, part carny troop, and part hedonist heaven, it was the culmination of debauchery and Epicureanism on levels never before seen on Entrath. With copious amounts of revelry, drink, mind-altering substances, and other activities, the Fae swept up adventurers like a pleasuremonger's black hole, with some joining the coterie and others being crushed into a strung-out mess thrown out the other side. Ranging far across Entrath and lurching from one campsite to the next, with drunken brawls breaking out everywhere in between, the din of the Merry Caravan drowned out all rational thought, and with so many lost to the glee and glamour of the gala, it slipped by everyone's notice when Puck, the elven flutist, strayed too far into unknown lands. Puck the Dreambringer was a longtime personal friend of Brosi Buck, the mischief master of Pippets, and Balthazar, the grandest of the satyrs. With music that could sway the soul and a joke always at the ready, Puck became their consummate companion. Sadly, though, his skills were no use as he ventured into the edges of the Blightbark's realm, just as they were venturing out to join the arena melee. I've touched on the Blightbark in a previous video, and their malice and cruelty is unchanged since I discussed it then. Lady Blightbark came upon Puck vulnerable and isolated, and it just so happened this occurred during the Lord and Lady's anniversary. Deciding to turn the cheerful elf into a bit of sport for her husband, she unleashed their pestilent hounds, Plague and Famine, who harried Puck further and further away from the Merry Caravan, slicing his legs and running him out of breath. His efforts to rally his friends to his side stifled, and his strength draining away during his mad dash for survival, Puck reached the area where Lord Blightbark stood, watching the chase with a flicker of satisfaction. As Puck lay bleeding and spent with only fear remaining, Lord Blightbark whispered to him, berating the excess and indulgence that led, the aged plantmaster believed, to a waste of life. With insult to injury dealt, Lord Blightbark released his hounds on Puck. Plague and Famine descended upon the broken elf, tearing meat and muscle off his bones, forever silencing the sweetest of songs. The Blightbarks proceeded on their way, eyes set to the north, in search of a power to aid them in their quest for immortality for Lord Blightbark. It is apparent from the conversation that the young and vivacious Puck was a painful reminder of Lord Blightbark's own mortality, and the comparison to his slowly decaying form fueled his cruelty. But neither knew the consequences of this act would be significantly destructive, as one of Puck's friends, Brosi Buck, later took note of the elf's long absence. Knowing something to be amiss, Brosi teleported around the outskirts of the Merry Caravan. Suddenly chancing upon Puck's bloodied flute, Brosi summoned the scrying powers of wild magic by putting a bit of the blood into his mouth, and immediately was stricken by sickening visions of the hunt that had taken place. Brosi's elemental nature abruptly erupted. With his true form unleashed, that of an impossibly large monstrous blue hulk, and with anger searing his mind, Brosi descended upon Blightbark Castle, scorching the enormous plant structure. Attempting to flee its own destruction, the castle attempted to move itself away, but to no avail. trapping the castle under gargantuan hands, and with devastation dealt from its roots to its tips, Blightbark Castle quickly died. The Blightbarks, upon detachedly viewing the destruction, left their lands behind, hastening to the north. However, possibly missing the significance of this event, Lady Blightbark did not realize that her father, Count Dragomir, a massively powerful vampire, began to rise from his long torpor, ensuring that the ongoing story of the Blightbarks will continue in another video. Returning the focus to Brosi as he recovered from his rage, leaving him with only sorrow as he struggled with the next action he knew he must take, to tell Balthazar about their shared loss. Balthazar's reaction upon hearing this has now turned him from a happy-go-lucky musician to a grief-stricken elegist. And now the last question we ask is, what will come of the Merry Caravan, now that their anguish has arisen and the Enders proceed with their extermination of Entrath? Well, we know that brawling is only second to their love of parties, and Entrath will need as many heroes as it can get to fight the Enders, so the party is likely over for now. But festivities are the Fae's default activity, and I can't imagine those fun-loving folks won't someday realize that their old friend would not want them to continually mourn his death, and instead celebrate his life. With the whole Merry Caravan event in view, we turn to a theme deck. Now, this event has 3 stages to it, so creating a single deck to represent it would be convoluted. As such, I've moved to a different format for this video so you can take part in the lore too. I've created a trio of siege decks, one for the formation of the Merry Caravan, one for the death of Puck, and one for the wrath of Brosi, Buck, and Balthazar. At 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the day this video releases, I'll open a siege defense with a prize of 200 platinum. These decks have beaten a few people here and there, but with the contents laid bare, I'm sure you'll have the advantage. As such, I consider this as a sort of lore giveaway. Also, after the deck is defeated, I'll open a defense with the same decks 4 additional times, so 5 200 platinum prizes are up for grabs with this one. If you manage to take the deck down, I'd only ask that you don't assault it again, so other people can experience it too. Now that the format has been explained, let's take a look at the decks. In the first deck, the Merry Caravan deck, we have 1 Balthazar, 3 Merry Caravans, 4 Changeling Cuties with boot equipment, 4 Tipsy Transmuters, 4 Arcing Winds, 3 Spellsong Sweeties, 4 Party Fungi, 4 Frenetic Doppelganger with glove equipment, 1 Puck Dreambringer, 4 Chlorophilia with helm equipment, 4 Belligerent Badger with chest equipment, 4 Will of Instinct, 12 Wild Shards, 8 Sapphire Shards, with Puff the Rainbow as the champion. As you can see, the deck focuses around Fae troops, as well as lots of transform effects, and generally having a great time. For the second deck, where we have the Blightbarks catching up to Puck, we have 1 Lady Violet Blightbark, 1 Dream's End, 4 Extinction, 4 Lurking Rotjaw with trinket equipment, 4 Plague and Famine, 4 Blightbark Paladin, 4 Hero Fall with glove equipment, 4 Arcing Winds, 4 Blight Bush, 2 Blight Knights, 1 Lord Blightbark, 4 Leeching Burrowers with boots and chest equipment, with 3 Well of Ancients, 4 Shard of Ancients, 7 Wild Shard, 9 Blood Shard, and Kagaluchu as the champion. And for the third and final deck, we have the saddest portion of the Merry Caravan. We have 1 Wrath of Broski, 3 Broski Bucks, 4 Crocosaurs, 4 Runir Hierophants with the Minor Wild Orb of Conservation and Minor Wild Orb of Dominance gems, 4 Arcing Winds, 4 Might Singer of Ages, 4 Carnosauruses, 4 Chlorophilias with helm equipment, 4 Clorberdons, 4 Howling Braves with boot equipment, and 24 Wild Shards with Balthazar the Elegist as the champion. This deck is all about unleashing rage and charging down your opponents. Now that the decks are ready, let's go ahead and see them in action. Okay, the first deck of the Merry Caravan is a bit chaotic by nature. Okay, if he draws another resource, the opponent's not out of the game, so we'll see what we get. Okay, second diamond, he's okay. And let's go ahead and see what we draw first. Okay, frenetic doppelganger. So there's our first line of attack that we have. The doppelganger really uses the opponent's power, or the power of the opponent's troops against them. So really good. And that momentum will retain or will stay on the troop even after it transforms again. While normally good-natured, the Fae definitely have a bit of a scary streak, as seen in the Adventure Zone 1 encounter with the Fae Tricksters. In the encounter, your hero gets swept up in the current of a river and nearly drowns, and as they're gasping for air, the fairies pull up Five Nights at Freddy's and attack, laughing at you the whole time. So, it's, the cuties might look like they're all nice and well-mannered, but you really have to be careful about trusting those Fae, for sure. We're accelerating pretty ridiculously here, turning into cuties and drawing tons of cards. Wow, that was good. A puck, the momentum is ridiculous. People are turning into butterflies, and Tipsy transmutes 5-6 Dinkler is out. This is the chaos that I was talking about. It's pretty ridiculous. I am unsure if he can recover from this. A hero of legend? Sure. Okay, hero of legend. Come with me to my caravan. Oh, and a cutie's come out. And your hero of legend is now a minstrel. And the Merry Caravan comes in. Everyone's having a great time. See? This is what it's all about. It's the chaos. Just get involved with those Fae, and suddenly the hero of legend is a minstrel. It's fantastic. Perfect example of what this deck does. Chaos is basically the name of the game. Okay, so deck 2 of the Merry Caravan is Blightbark focused, of course, and we've got a lot of death cries in there. We've got some control options, a lot of things returning from the graveyard, so very much focused on that aspect of things. Ooh, Lord Blightbark coming out first. Of course, he's going to get Decree of Banishing right away, which is fine. Speaking of banishing, I mentioned during the lore section that Count Dragomir awoke after the destruction of Blightbark Castle, but it looks like the Blightbarks might actually have more than one skeleton in their closet, because Rachmaninoff was also tucked away under there. Being the first undead dragon, its title is The Starved, so I'm pretty sure the Blightbarks weren't just keeping this thing under their castle to nurse it back to health. If it was the Blightbark's mistreatment that caused the death of Rachmaninoff, they might have some serious pain coming their way between the dragon and Count Dragomir. Okay, another Decree of Banishing. That's a good one, because that troop is very troublesome. He battles when he comes out, he's got Rebirth, and he gives something else -1/-1, so you can flatten a ridiculous amount of troops with it. Okay, that's too bad that voids it, because that Death Cry is really good. That keeps pumping up and adding new copies of it. We've got Plague and Famine on the hunt. That's really good. We've got to get some Blight Blooms out there. We're doing our damage. Another Decree of Banishing. Okay, that's ridiculous. It's taken all away. That's okay. We've got... that's really good, because if he creates any phantoms, then they'll die. Doesn't have a second Blood Shard, and that's proving to be very troublesome for him. And he's down to 11. Okay, another Void effect. And what do we got? We're doing 3. He's down to 9. Still doesn't have double blood. You know, if I use that Arctic Wind, that would really be good. Because I would be able to pop right back up. And here we go with 6 damage. He's down to 4. And we've got the thing. And he didn't draw double blood. And that was just the end of it. So, a lot more protracted fights with that deck, but a lot more of the controlling options. Okay, so this is the third deck of the Merry Caravan, a very, very aggressive deck. And you may ask, why did I put the Runir Hierophant in? Well, the Hierophant is a Shinhair cleric of the Wild Shard, so I always thought that Happy, the stone Shinhair who was originally sent to spy on the Fae and report back, would have been promoted to one if he did a good enough job. So instead, though, he ended up making friends with everyone in the Merry Caravan, and decided to enjoy the good life instead of going back to the soul-crushing feudalism of the Shinhair. So I feel like the Runir Hierophant is kind of like Happy's fighting form. Okay, good. So my opponent did get a wild shard. The Might Singer's pretty darn scary, though. We drew... Oh my gosh, we drew a Howling Brave with that. Both Clobardons come down. Oh, this is not looking good. A Rowdy Piper... No, you're in my band, sir. The Rowdy Piper stays with me. Oh no. Oh, say it ain't so. Oh, Brosie. Brosie, why you gotta do him dirty like that? Oh. You've left him with a mind call and a lookout. That's what you have left this man with. Oh. Oh. Boy, that unrelenting rage. Oh. It's so dirty. Oh my gosh, I feel... Is it okay if I feel terrible right now? Oh, and that ready action whenever you play a wild troop to the Howling Brave is ridiculous. You can get so much value out of that with this deck. So you can tell that this deck can give out a pounding for sure. You know, look at this man, he's crying. Don't bother him. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, leave a lore request or comment, or a like on the video if you were entertained. And, as always, I'm MSB, wishing you good games and good times.